Hello, and welcome to another episode of Elizabeth Burnt, This and That. Tonight, a review of the newer 2006 Nicolas Cage remake of the 1973 movie, The Wicker Man.
Welcome back again, everybody. This was the one that I actually saw in the cinema. And yes, I will admit it is a guilty pleasure. I adore Nick Cage. I'm not going to have any qualms about that. There are many people who think that this version is abhorrent, but to be fair, it holds up, save for the ending. Some might argue or believe that Nick Cage might not have been the right actor for the role, but he is exploited for his naivete and his compassionate heart. The producer left it open for a sequel, but it bombed so bad that it never became a franchise. This one happens in British Columbia versus Scotland. There are plenty of differences that separate this from the original. Now, I do like the original better, but this darker one will always remain in my heart. 3.5 out of 5, one thumb up. What was your opinion? What did you think?
My opinion?
Yeah.
I liked it, but I like Nicolas Cage so much that I didn't like the ending.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I don't want to, I don't want to mention anything about Broken Bones or go into detail about that. But being Nicolas Cage, I like Nicolas Cage.
Right.
I wasn't a big fan of the conclusion of this movie.
I already knew it was coming.
And had it been a different actor, where I wouldn't have really cared.
Yeah.
Maybe my overall opinion would be maybe
more neutral.
Yeah, maybe a little bit different. So anyway. And
it was lacking a lot of what the 73 version had because it didn't have a lot of the incorporation of, the fertility or the innuendo. Well, it did have some of the innuendo, but it was lacking a little bit of that. It had other elements that were different.
Yeah, the first movie had very strong, especially for 1973, very strong sexual overtones.
Extremely.
And a lot of their culture was based around pagan sexual rituals.
Right.
Which, I don't know, maybe early in the 70s, that kind of movie, that kind of genre was, coming into place.
Right.
But it would have had an R rating, I'm sure.
Oh, easily.
And not a real wide audience for that reason.
I think it has a cult following.
But yeah, I could see where would have a cult following. And overall, it was, it was a fairly well put together, good movie.
Well, it was shot really well. I mean, it was just these beautiful, when the main character comes into the island, that overhead is just absolutely stunning. It's just so gorgeous.
And this was, based in Europe.
Right.
Whereas the Nicolas Cage movie was shot in
British Columbia, right.
Off on an island.
Sure. I mean, it has the same premise.
Right. I think it was just off the state of Washington.
Yes, absolutely.
British Columbia. One of the isles, one of the islands off the coast there.
Right.
So, but anyway.
Away from the mainland.
Both of them, I think, are worth watching.
Yes.
But I would take the original just for the fact that, it's set back in the early 70s.
Right.
Watching any kind of film from back in that time period has its own, things that make it interesting from a historical perspective, at least, in my opinion.
Same.
And for the next webcast coming up, we don't know yet what it's going to be. So we're not going to tease it here. We'll just kind of, let Elizabeth go with the flow and see what she wants to do next. So that'll do it for this evening. Trying to get caught up a little bit, but we've got a lot more webcasts that we still need to do.
Night, everybody.